One fall, I was visiting Acadia National Park in Maine for my birthday, September 28th. I was traveling with a college buddy. We booked a campsite at Seawall Campground online. When we arrived, we parked Pete's family's pop-up camper, which we had towed behind my dad's pickup. It looked like we were the only campers. The end of the season for the campground was only a couple of days away, and it was already dead. We took a scenic hike in nature that wound through beautiful fall colors and ended at the majestic Atlantic Ocean with a pink granite coastline at sunset. It was magnificent. But it was still early. It's too early to settle around a campfire for some college guys like us. We decided to drive to Bar Harbor and see if anything was happening there. We found a pretty exciting bar that had live music. It was warm inside as the fog had rolled in and blanketed Bar Harbor in a wet, cold mist. The rest of Main Street was dead. We ordered some fish and chips and a couple of beers. We chatted up the waitress and listened to the music. Anyway, time flew by and the place was closing. I don't remember the time, but it was late and felt later in the fog-shrouded, empty town. I put the navigation for the campground and we headed out of town. I was driving slowly as the road was black and the fog gave me limited visibility. As we rounded one bend in the road, a deer was standing in the center of the road. It caused me to push the brakes hard, and the pickup swerved uncomfortably before stopping. The buck, lifting its magnificent rack, looked me dead in the eyes before casually walking off the road into the darkness. This caused me to be a bit jittery, so I drove with extreme caution after that encounter. Pete and I whispered about how close that was and how that buck appeared out of nowhere. A few houses were along the road, but most were dark and inviolable as we drove past. We had been waiting for a car to pass us, going in the opposite direction since we left the harbor. It was very desolate and felt like we were miles from our campsite. Pete was fiddling with the radio when he looked up and said, "Look out!" I saw her simultaneously. Even though we were going slowly, I jammed on the brakes for a second time in less than 10 minutes. There, walking in the center of the road, was a young woman. She was wearing a white nightgown and was barefoot. As she walked the center line to my driver's side, I opened the window and asked if she needed help. She stopped and turned her body slowly until she was looking directly at me. She neither blinked nor spoke. She had the most dead eyes I have ever seen. She stood there a full minute, just piercing me with that stare. Neither Pete nor I could speak. Without a breath, she turned and continued walking down the road. I watched in the mirror as her white nightgown glowed red as she passed a truck's taillights. I looked at Pete in shock, and he looked back at me with that "what the hell was that" expression. I said, "Pete, she's in trouble. Maybe she's sleepwalking or something like that. She should not be on the road in this fog and this late at night. She'd get hit by a car. I'm gonna go help her." With that, I put on the hazard lights and jumped out of the cab. Pete just sat petrified in the passenger seat. I caught up with her in a couple of fast steps. Her dress blinked yellow and red from the brake lights and hazard flashers. I reached out to touch her, then thought better of that and said, "Hey, is everything all right? Can I take you somewhere?" She stopped, stood silently with her back to me. I said again, "I'm here to help. How can I help you?" She turned again with that dead-eyed stare just 5 feet before me. The truck hazards and brake lights turned her red and yellow in alternate flashes. Then she screamed with such force I stepped back, stumbling to the ground. She stepped towards me again with that dreadful shriek. I crab-walked backwards, turned and ran to the truck. Pete was locking his door when this woman, still shrieking, came to his door. I put the truck in gear and hammered the gas. In 20 yards, she had vanished in the night fog. We said nothing to each other until we reached the camper and the campground. All we can say is that it was a chilling nightmare. I've been an over-the-road trucker for quite a few years, and this was the scariest encounter I have ever had. Have you ever seen a jawbone knife? This is a story about such a knife wielded by a most unsavory man. I was delivering a highly sophisticated machine from the manufacturer in Pittsburgh to Charlotte, North Carolina. An 8-hour haul. It was a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment, and the manufacturer in Charlotte needed desperately to keep its production obligations to a very particular customer. I have delivered urgently needed supplies and take such deliveries very seriously. I know the pressure on everyone, and they all dump this anxiety on the driver, so it's a high-pressure job. Somewhere around Mount Hope, West Virginia, I hit a road construction and a detour that took me deep into the mountains on a back road. Always expect the unexpected, especially when the schedule is tight. I knew this would set me back several hours, and if I was to get through, I needed to stop, rest, and eat. And along some rural roads, surprisingly good food can be found at the most unsuspecting restaurants. I saw such a place at the side of the road with a wood fire burning under a smoker and knew some great barbecue was surely to be had there. The place itself was a dump. It was built in the 1940s and still mainly operating for local carryout and the occasional trucker like me. I struck up a conversation with the smokemaster, who was as grisly as the most backward mountain man as you can imagine. Bib overalls, no shirt, and as hairy as all get out. He was chewing tobacco as he worked and didn't use gloves on the hot meat, just reached into the smoker with his filthy hands and grabbed the ribs or whatever was needed. I told him my urgency to get to Charlotte, and he said, "I can help you," in a deep woods accent. With that, he produced a knife, cut a large slice of smoked pork, and tossed it onto a plate, saying, "This here jawbone knife will get you there." I had never heard of a jawbone knife, but when he put it into my hands, I thought at first it was a jawbone handle made from a pig or something. But as soon as I held it, I knew it was the jawbone of a human. "Carving your name in this here wood," handing me a pine board and instructing me to scratch my whole name into it. I did it reluctantly, too afraid to say no to him. He was holding me in an intense gaze. I carved my name. He then grabbed my wrist in a vice-like grip with a hardened hand as I had never felt before. He took the jawbone knife out of my hand and, still holding my wrist, stared me in the eyes before I knew what had happened. Cut my palm with the knife. As blood ran down my fingers, he took my bloody palm and smashed it onto the pine board with my name. He released me and I stumbled back in shock as I watched him open the smoker fire and shove the wooden board with my name carved and my bloody handprint into the fire. "Now get, you won't be late," he growled. I ran to my truck and had it in gear, blood still streaming from my hand. I drove like a madman to escape that barbecue grill. I have never been so frightened in my life. I made Charlotte in record time. I'd only been driving truck for about 6 or 7 months when this chilling nightmare happened. I was on a rural route through Arkansas, and it was late at night, and there was an early winter wind blowing in gusts that made my rig buffet and just made it feel cold even though it wasn't. There was a full moon, so the road was well lit beyond my headlights. I was getting tired when I looked ahead and saw a white shape emerge along the edge of the road. I slowed down, not knowing what it was. As I got closer, and it was inside my headlights, I could see it was a young girl wearing a long nightgown. She had her thumb out, indicating she was hitchhiking. It's not uncommon to see kids hitchhiking during the day in the summer, but at night in early winter? Never. I instantly suspected a runaway and pulled my rig over and stopped. I usually don't stop for hitchhikers. Having grown up in the 80s, I had heard plenty of stories of hitchhikers robbing and killing kind drivers who stopped for them. But on this blustery night, I wasn't about to leave a girl standing on the side of the road, especially one with a desperate look in her eye. I opened the door and she climbed up. When seated, I asked where she was headed and she said, "Just drive." This worried me because she looked no older than 15 and I was nearly 3 times her age. She was skinny and malnourished and was very distant in her sunken eyes. We had yet to go 2 or 3 miles when I passed a state trooper sitting alongside the road. His blue light sprang to life as I passed and he swung out behind me. The girl in my passenger seat said, Drive faster, don't stop. I wouldn't run from the police because some little girl told me to. I slowed and signaled I was stopping. She instantly flew at me in a rage that defies description, clawing and hitting, standing with one foot on the dash and the other on the center console. I lost momentary control of the truck and only regained it before plummeting down the road embankment. The truck lurched to a hard stop. The devil herself screamed, "I'll kill you!" With the patrol car behind me and the officer walking up to my door along the 40-foot trailer, the nightgown-clad girl jumped from the cab, disappeared into the forest. I opened my door and the officer said, "Good evening. I just stopped you to warn you not to pick up any hitchhikers you might encounter. We have an escaped person from the institution for the criminally insane. She will appear as a young girl but is 45 and very dangerous. She has killed, and it is believed she will kill anyone she encounters, so just be warned." I sputtered, She just attacked me and jumped from the cab as he walked up. She's in the forest now." With that, he called for backup and told me to drive and not to stop. If I see her again, contact the state police immediately. I hope they find her and get her back to the mental institution before she kills a kind trucker, thinking he is doing a good deed.
Subscribe.